Gary, thank you so much. Well, when it comes to getting a smog check on your vehicle, the average driver usually has a lot of questions. So today we're going to help clear up some of the things you may have heard. Time to ask our auto man, Brian Bowersock of West Escondido. He joins us with all of his tips. Something that I don't even know that much about, so I'm probably the perfect person to be doing this interview with you. And I know some things have changed recently. So let's talk, when you have, customers come in, what are the most frequently asked questions when it comes to a smog check?
Folks have a lot of questions about smog checks. It's one of those things that, it's sometimes hard for them to get all the answers of what's going on. In the smog check laws, when it deals with gasoline automobiles, there are certain things like the first 6 years you purchase a new vehicle, it's excluded. The first 4 years that it's purchased is excluded from doing a smog check, transfer of ownership. There's two kinds of smog checks. One is a transfer of ownership, that you have to smog the car if you're selling it to somebody else after the first initial 4 years. The second one is what we call biannual. Every 2 years you have to get the vehicle smogged in order to register it after the first initial 6 years when the vehicle's initially new.
So what are the key things you need to know about your car going into this? Obviously how old it is, but anything else that, when people come, they need to have this information ready to go so that you can help them?
The best thing when you come in is number one, there's also a couple different kinds of smog shops. There's test only, there's a test and repair, and then there's a Gold Shield gross polluter station. The Gold Shield gross polluter stations can test any vehicle, no matter what, test only or non-test only. Test only can test any vehicle, but all they can do is test. And test and repair can test vehicles that are not Gold Shield directed.
So a lot of testing going on.
A lot of testing going on, a lot of different places. If you're not sure, you can always go to our Gold Shield station. They can test any vehicle. Some of the important things to know are bring the paperwork, if it's a biannual that DMV sent you, it's got a barcode on top of it, and bring your vehicle. Second thing, obviously, the best thing you can do for a vehicle to make sure it passes a smog check is keep the vehicle maintained and the maintenance up. Those are the minimal things to do, Other than that, there's not a ton of things you can do with a vehicle to make it pass smog. Newer vehicles are more susceptible to passing smog. Obviously, older vehicles that haven't been maintained as well have more issues.
Let's talk about diesel vehicles, because on January 4th, something happened that people need to keep in mind.
January this year, January 2010, a lot of people in the diesel camp aren't real happy about the fact that California has installed a smog check program for diesel trucks. Everything under 12,000 gross vehicle weight will now have to get a biannual inspection. And they do not have a 4-year transfer of ownership and a 6-year new exclusion. As soon as you buy the vehicle 2 years later, if you buy brand new 2 years later, it's going to have to be smogged to renew the registration. Folks that own diesels, pickup trucks especially, have done lots of modifications over the years because they've been excluded from this smog program. There's a lot of things that are going to be failures on those type of vehicles. Anything aftermarket that's not approved by the Air Resources Board during the visual inspection will cause the vehicle to fail. There's an OBD test where you plug into the vehicle and check to make sure it hasn't stored any codes. And the third part of that test for diesels is a smoke test. Actually, if smoke lingers for longer than 3 seconds after you accelerate the vehicle and it's visual, then it fails for that.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's probably not a good thing.
Not a good thing.
What'd you bring in here?
Today we just brought some parts. These are off a gas vehicle. We have a couple O2 sensors, coil, EGR valve, which is exhaust gas recirculation, lowers NOx. The gray stuff that hangs over LA, that's NOx. And a couple other components, just failed components. There are lots of components on a vehicle that control drivability and fuel control, which also control emissions. So that's just a few of them that I brought.
All right, a lot of information, a lot of testing that goes into this, but of course, if you have a question, you can always call Brian. That's probably one of the best ways to do it if you're going, how do I know what my car is?
Answer them every day.
Perfect. All right, thanks so much, Brian, for coming in. Of course, if you have another question, go ahead and just email Brian or call Brian. You can go to our website right now, san diego6.com, click on Hot Topic.